of three Hebrew young men who decided against all culture to stand up for what was right. And they faced some very, very unique opposition. And so we're going to read that story here just a little bit, and then we're going to make a few comments, and then I'll let you go home, all right? Daniel chapter 3, the Bible says in verse 1, Nebuchadnezzar, the king, made an image of gold whose height was 80 cubits, and the breadth thereof 6 cubits. He set it up in the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king sent to gather together the princes, the governors, the captains, the judges, the treasurers, the counselors, the sheriffs, and all the rulers of the provinces to come to the dedication of the image which Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. And the princes, the governors, captains, the judges, the treasurers, the counselors, the sheriffs, and all the rulers, all these guys, they came. Okay, verse 4. Then an herald cried aloud, to you it is commanded, O people, nations, and languages, that at what time ye hear, and then it lists a whole bunch of instruments, it says that you need to fall down. You fall down and worship the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king hath set up. Verse 6 says, And whoso falleth not down and worshipeth, shall the same hour be cast into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. Therefore, at that time when all the people heard the sound of these instruments, all the people, the nations, the languages, fell down and worshipped the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. Now, here's what happened. A little background. Daniel chapter 2 tells us that Nebuchadnezzar the king of Babylon has a dream. In this dream, he sees this giant image, and the image has a head of gold. It has arms of silver, has a chest of brass, it has legs of iron, and feet, iron mixed with clay. In this image, he's troubled because there is a stone that comes out of the mountain. The stone is a stone cut out without man's hands, and it rolls down out of the mountains and crushes. It becomes a huge stone, and it crushes the feet of this image. The image falls down. The stone grinds the image to powder. The image, all the powder flies away, and the stone becomes a mountain that fills the whole earth. Nebuchadnezzar is troubled by the dream. He's so troubled when he wakes up in the morning, he's still troubled, but he can't remember what the dream was. He knows it was a troubling dream. He knows it was something important, but he can't for the life of him remember what it was. And so he calls for all of his magicians, all his wise men, and he says, come in here. I need you to tell me the interpretation of the dream. And the wise men say, all right, what's the dream? He said, I don't remember it. I said, well, if you don't remember it, what's the problem? So, well, I know it's a troubling dream, and I know it was supposed to tell me something, but I don't remember what it was supposed to tell me because I can't remember the dream. The magician says, well, hey, we can't do this. We've never done this. Nobody's ever done this. If you tell us the dream, we'll tell you what it means. We can't come up with a dream on our own. He gets angry. He says, I'm going to kill you all. Well, word gets back to Daniel because he's lumped in with all this group. And the king said, the prince of the eunuchs says, hey, Daniel's going to kill everybody. Daniel's like, whoa, why? Because we can't figure out what the dream is. The king's got this dream, and we don't know what it is, and he doesn't know what the meaning is, and he's really angry about it. He's in quite a stew. So Daniel says, well, just give me a little minute, and let me pray to my God. And he can tell the dream and tell the interpretation, and then we got this, okay? And so the prince of the eunuch goes back and says, wait a second, I think I've got somebody that might know something. And the king says, okay, I want to hear it. So Daniel and his three friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego is how we know them. Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah are Hebrew names. He gathers them together, and they have a little prayer meeting. And by the way, just off the side here, chasing a rabbit, every Friday morning from 5:45 to 6, if you'd like to come pray with us, Brother Steve and I pray here in the church auditorium. If you'd like to come, you're welcome to do that. Praying for our country, for our church, for the people in our church. Back to the prayer. He gathers his friends around him. They have a prayer meeting. A lot of the great movements of God happen when prayer happens. And God says, okay, Daniel, here's the dream. Daniel goes back and he says, King, he says, I serve a God who knows everything. He knows the dream. He knows the interpretation of the dream. He's a God that reveals secrets. And the king said, okay, tell me the dream. And Daniel says, here's the dream. You saw this image. And he tells him what it was. King's like, well, that is what the dream was. I remember. And that's exactly what it was. Now, what does it mean? And Daniel says, King, let me tell you something. He said, that head of gold, he said, that's you. Of course, he got puffed up about that. He said, yeah, that head of gold, that's you. He said, you've got an empire that's bigger than anyone's ever will be, ever has been. You have the biggest empire, world empire, ever known to man. You are the head of gold. Well, how would you like to be king and hear that? The top of the world, top of his game, the biggest and baddest king ever to exist before or after. He says, what's next is, and I'm somewhat paraphrasing the story, but this is what it is. I'm giving you the gist of the story, okay? I'm not taking liberties outside of the truth of the story. The king says, okay, what is this? What happens next? He said, well, he said, after you, there's going to be another kingdom, and it's going to be inferior to your kingdom. And it's going to be split into two. And that's exactly what happened. The Medes and the Persians, we know them as Iran and Iraq, came in and took the Babylonian kingdom and split it into two parts. It weakened it quite a bit. You have to understand that right now we're kind of big-headed when we think that America is as this big empire that stretches around the world. The truth is, we don't have authority around the world. King Nebuchadnezzar was one guy. He was not a president. He wasn't a king of the European Union. He was a king of the world. And all people, if you read in Daniel 3, you'll see it says, all nations, all peoples, all tongues were gathered together there. Nebuchadnezzar reigned over the entire world at that time. Unbelievable. There's still remnants of King Nebuchadnezzar's reign left in tatters around the world. The Medes and Persians devoured it up. Daniel says that's what's going to happen next. He said next after that is going to rise a kingdom that's going to be inferior to the Medes and Persians. And indeed, that's what happened. The kingdom of brass happened, okay? And that was the king, we know it in our history books as the Bronze Age. The Greeks came and did that. Daniel said, and you can all read this in Daniel chapter 2, it's lockstep with history, exactly what history books tell us happened through our archaeological findings. The Bible had it all laid out long before our history books understood it. Daniel said the next thing that's going to happen is there's going to be another kingdom, and it's going to be divided in two. It's going to be a kingdom of iron. And that's what we find out happened. The Roman Empire divided into two parts. It did. It split down the middle. And but it was a kingdom of iron, known as a kingdom of iron. Everyone knows that that's what the Roman Empire was. He said finally after that is going to rise another world kingdom, and that world kingdom is going to be divided, and it's going to be factious. He said what's going to happen is the feet are going to be clay mixed with iron. It's going to be part iron, part clay, going to be 10 different kings. In other words, Nebuchadnezzar is the king of gold, right? The head of gold. He's the one king. But by the time we get to the feet, there's going to be 10 different guys vying for the leadership position, kind of like the Republican Party right now. But anyway, 10 different kings spread out over the whole world. Now, it's iron mixed with clay. You guys have heard me preach before, heard me describe this before. I've described it several times. You understand exactly where we're going right at the moment. What happens is, the Bible tells us in Daniel chapter 2 that this empire, this clay mixed with iron empire, is people mingling with the seed of men. They cleave to one another, or they're mingled together, but they do not cleave to each other. In other words, there are racial tensions described in the blacks and the whites, Asians. Did you guys hear that there's a bill on the Senate floor to rename the Asian carp because it's offensive to Asians? Did you hear that the Redskins are probably going to lose their name because it's offensive to the Redskins? Where does the madness stop? But anyway, we're mingled with the seed of men, but don't cleave to each other. Don't get along. They don't get along. Drove past Ferguson the other day. Almost drove into Ferguson. If my wife and family had not been with me, I would have gone to Ferguson just for the fun of it. But anyway, think about the racial tensions that are going on there, and the racial tensions in Boston and all over the countryside. That's the That's what that empire, that final empire is about. Now, you're King Nebuchadnezzar. Here you are sitting on your throne. All right, we're going to sit on the throne. Daniel's gone, and boy, we've awarded him because he is the best wise man. He is the king of all wise men. He's the best. We're going to elevate him to a very high place, and wow, we're going to do everything we can do, and that's all taken care of, and I'm going to sit here and think now and got all this affairs of state and these people coming in and bowing before me. Boy, I'm the greatest king. I'm all right. Wow, look at what I've done. Wow, man. No other king after me is going to be as good as me. Everything after me is inferior. He's not thinking about the wind down of the world. He's thinking about how good he is and how he's the top of his game. They're going to remember Nebuchadnezzar. The more he thinks about it, the more he thinks, you know what? He said, that image, God gave that to me. You know, the Almighty, the Creator, He gave that to me. You know what I ought to do? I ought to just kind of memorialize that. Why don't we go out in the plains there and let's take this image and let's make a duplicate. Let's see if we can't make something as big and beautiful as what I saw in my dream. Then I'm going to gather everybody around. Since I'm the king of everything, I'm the biggest guy around, I'm going to have everybody bow down to me, my image. Make it really, really big so, you know, they can't see me. You know, they didn't have video screens back then. Like today, we just put ourselves on big, huge video screens so everybody can see us. I don't have that, so we had to make a big image. Everybody's going to bow down. And I'm going to have all the orchestra there, and we're going to celebrate me. That's a great idea. Well, as Nebuchadnezzar begins to think about this, the idea he begins to take shape. What happens is he realizes that he's going to face some resistance, and so, well, first of all, he probably doesn't think about the resistance a whole lot. He thinks everybody's going to just go for it. That's what most people like that think. When they're self-centered, everybody's going to go along with this. And so he gathers everybody together, and he's sitting there watching and off to the side on his throne, and boy, he's enjoying this moment. All these nations gathered around this image. Wow, what a great day it is. All the instruments play, and he's proud. I've assembled quite an orchestra. This sounds really great. I'm so excited. Wow, am I a great king? Wow, have I done a good job? Man, can I put it together? And the instruments play and everything, and he looks out there, and everybody falls down. Wait, what am I seeing over there? What is that? There's not one person, there's three of them not bowing down. Absolutely everybody else is bowing down but those three. And Nebuchadnezzar, those people they send his soldiers, bring him up to the throne, and basically this is what happened. He gets angry. He says, I'm going to give you another chance. And that didn't help. He says, I'll give you another chance to bow down. That didn't help. And he tells them to heat the furnace up 7 times. 7 times hotter than it was. 7 times hotter. So now, boys, you don't understand. This furnace is really hot. And it's hotter than I've ever had it before. Still not going to bow? Nope. It's okay. I'm going to throw you in. Now, what I want to back up for a minute. I want to talk to you just a little bit about what exactly happened and how that applies to you. First thing I want you to see in this is that the world always wants you to bow to their idols. We're seeing it right now. They're force-feeding their idolatry down our throats. They want us to bow to it. They don't just want us to acknowledge or allow. See, the three Hebrew young men were standing in the crowd. They were acknowledging the existence of the idol. They knew it was there. They know the world has idols. They just didn't want to bow to it. But the world says that's not good enough. It's not good enough for you to allow us to exist. You have to bow to us, acknowledge us, and worship what we believe is true. Sound familiar? Now, what I want you to see about this is the world is serious about it. While we're playing games at church, and we're playing games with our Christianity, and we're messing around on the side and not really being straight and honest with ourselves, with God or anybody else, the world is not playing games. Remember, the Bible says in the New Testament, the devil is a roaring lion, walketh about seeking whom he may devour. I have a coffee cup in my office that has the picture of the lions of Tsavo on it. I don't know if you've ever watched the movie Ghost in the Darkness, but if you like those kind of movies, I highly recommend it. It's not about ghosts, it's about two lions, or man-eating lions, that walked in India while they were, Colonel Patterson and Remington were actually putting a train, a transcontinental train across the country of India, and these two lions would come out and they would kill. They thought it was one lion at one time. They would set up a hospital tent. The lions would literally come into the hospital tent and eat the people in the hospital tent, drag them out. There was just no protection. Colonel Patterson and Remington, they went after him and ended up killing the one lion, thought they'd killed him. That night they got drunk. While they were drunk, laying there in their drunken stupor, one lion, the other lion that they didn't know there was a pair of them, he came in and dragged Remington out and killed him. And Patterson wakes up in the morning by himself. But anyway, it's quite a story. The lions of Tsavo, if you want to see them, the skins were stretched and they're up mounted in the Field Museum in Chicago. Unbelievable story. I've read the book Death in the Long Grass by Peter Hathaway Capstick. I highly recommend that book. It will freak you out when you read the stories of these lions and how they will come in, these man-eating lions, how they will come in and literally drag people from their homes. One lion one time went into a home. Well, it terrorized the village, and people tried killing it, couldn't kill it. Everybody that went after it, it killed. It would come right into the village, and one time went into this one house and dragged the person, killed the person, and then went back into the house, the hut, took the person's belongings and spread the belongings up and down the street in the middle of town. Just flaunting its deviltry. Unbelievable. And you would think the thing had a mind of its own, and probably demon-possessed. Animals can have demons in them, by the way. If you read your Bible, you'll find out some demons entered into some pigs. Remember that part? And it could be demon-possessed. I don't know. But they say when they looked in the eyes of the lions of Tsavo, they thought they were the devil themselves. It was just scared people to death. They said they were weird. They were cunning. The devil's described that way. I want you to understand that the world and Satan are not playing games. They will take no prisoners. Understand? When they say, if you don't bow, we'll put you in the fiery furnace, they aren't saying, this is all a big game. They're saying, if you don't bow, we will put you into the fiery furnace. That's their intent. I don't know if you've noticed this, but the language of hate, we've been accused of being hateful. The language of hate's not coming from the church. Christian people that dislike what's going on in our country are not being hateful, with the exception of a few. There are a few. But the majority of churches are stumbling all over themselves trying to prove to everybody that they love everyone, so much so it's almost getting sickening. And meanwhile, coming back from the other side is vicious hatred. And you guys know what I'm referring to. Just so we're clear, I'm talking about the whole gay marriage thing. The gay agenda. Just so we're clear. Yeah, they mean business. These cake bakers out west, that their company got shut down because they would not bake a cake for a gay marriage. Folks, that's one of many stories. Over the next 2 years, I'll guarantee you that's not going to be the only one. I'll guarantee you. And they're not gunning for just the cake bakers. There was one of the first lesbian senators said this week, religious liberty is for churches, it's not for the individual. She said that you're free to practice your religion within the confines of your church and your religious establishment. But businesses, people out there in the business world, you're not free to exercise it there. In other words, break your religion from your real life. Your religion is fake anyway, just keep it boxed up in your little church buildings. But when you come out here in the real world, leave your religion in the little church buildings. She didn't say that in so many words, but that's what she was intending to communicate. And if you asked her today if that's what she meant, she would agree with what I'm saying. That's exactly what she meant. She said that our faith, I can't remember the exact words, but she said it was that you could practice your religion in church, but not outside of the church. That's not what the Constitution intended. Seriously? You know what that means? She's gunning for you. Okay? So what? Do you think you're anything special? What are you worried about? That has happened since the beginning. That has always been going on. Okay? But remember, the world wants to force us to adopt its images, wants us to force us to bow down, and they are not playing games. The second thing I want you to see is that the world will convince some of our friends. Anybody notice that? So, you know how many Hebrew young men came out of Jerusalem? There's a whole crowd of them got carried away captive into Babylon. Whole bunch of them. Only 3 of them are standing. Where's Daniel? Well, I think he was somewhere else because I know he wouldn't have bowed. Guaranteed he wouldn't have bowed, and you understand, remember, Nebuchadnezzar's king over the whole world. So Daniel was in assignment somewhere. He had to have been. And there might have been some others that were on assignment somewhere. Mordecai might have been on assignment somewhere else. Some of these others might have been somewhere else. But everybody that was there, except for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, bowed. It's nauseating. If you use, again, just the gay agenda, and this is the one that's right in front of us right now. There's several things going on. But if you use this one as the test case, as it were, church after church after church are falling to it. Read yesterday, Glenn gave me a magazine, World Magazine. Remember the article about that church in California, Glenn? So this church in California grows just exponentially, just booms. I think they hired 5 pastors or something like that. And they're all, making big bucks. These guys are. really nice houses. They're all assistants and so on, 6 figures or something like that. Nice houses, big ones. So the pastor comes out all of a sudden and he says, from now on we're going to start accepting gay couples into our membership. And you're like, whoa, what? Well, if those guys resist him and say no, he cuts their paycheck. They have to move out of those houses into something else. They take a drastic cut in pay. Because I don't know if you noticed, but most pastors aren't 6-figured pastors. Most. 99% of us aren't in it for the money. If I wanted money, I'd be doing something different. That's the truth. Not in it for the money. Money doesn't motivate me. Do you know what? Those guys were motivated by money, and so what do? I think only one of them resigned, if I remember right. The rest of them are all still on staff. Church after church after church is just boom, 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 boom. A buddy of mine out in the West posted on Facebook, him and his family's out passing out food to the homeless on July 4th. He has a picture of his boy handing food to a transgender man, woman, whatever it is. And he said, we're not trying to win the cultural war, just out trying to show the love of Jesus. And I want to reach through the computer screen and wring his neck. You know why? Because by not saying anything, by not standing up, by proudly introducing his son to that debauchery, he's opening the door. Friends are bowing all over the place. Mattoon is divided, probably 50% for, 50% against, like the whole nation. Everybody knows somebody that thinks it was a great thing that gay marriage is now legal. Some of you are related to people like that. We all know somebody. You know what? It's becoming less and less popular. And it's going to even get less popular because the propaganda machine is starting on the kids in kindergarten and public school. So, what does the world do? Go after your friends. Why? Because the devil's a roaring lion trying to devour you, and he's not playing fair. Kind of reminds me of how everybody was tiptoeing around the terrorists. Got to be careful not to offend them. Why? So these guys fly a plane into our center of commerce and blow it up and kill thousands of people, and we're supposed to not offend them? Why? Everybody tiptoeing around. And so, well, let's negotiate. Do you understand these guys don't care about negotiation? You remember anybody remember World War II? Anybody remember World War II? I'm not old enough to remember World War II. My father fought in World War II, so I remember it. You understand? I heard all the stories. My grandfather fought in World War II. Anybody remember what a kamikaze was? Kamikaze pilot was a Japanese pilot that got in a plane planning on dying. Okay? You know what America was smart enough to realize back in those days? They're not playing fair. You understand? When you go up against the terrorists, like ISIS, for example, and you try to negotiate, that's why the United States of America established a policy: we will not negotiate with terrorists. Why? Because they aren't hitting on all 8 cylinders, if you know what I mean. They're blowing up women and children to advance their cause. Strapping bombs to little kids. My boys and I went and watched that movie, American Sniper. And the guy, the hero of the story in the movie, said what was the guy's name? Kyle, what was his name? He was killed by somebody who was trying to help, the sniper guy. Chris Kyle, that's it. He said, he was quoted in the movie saying, he said, I've looked evil in the face. Never seen such evil before in my life. When a little child would carry a bomb, and you have to shoot the child. Anybody remember Vietnam? That's why some of those guys came back from Vietnam all messed up in the head. My brother served in Vietnam. When the wall was here the other day, we went there and took a little piece of paper and rubbed it over my sister's boyfriend who was killed over there. His name is on the wall. And Norman Bettis is his name. On panel 36, row 28. That's where he's at. Norman died over there. You know those boys, I knew several that were over there. Like I said, my brother was there. My brother went over, was a helicopter pilot, and got transferred before he went over for different reasons. And there was only 2 guys in his entire class, WOC class, that survived, him and one other guy. The rest of them were all shot down in Vietnam. And as they would land, they would shoot them right out of the cockpits. It was vicious. And the children would come in. Just that kind of evil. They don't play fair. I think, well, we're just going to act like Christians. They're not acting like Christians. Let me tell you something. The devil is not acting like a Christian. He's not going to. He's not playing fair. He's going to go after your friends. And he's going to put pressure on you any way he can put pressure on you. Remember when he went after Job's wife? He went to his wife, whispered in his wife's ear. Remember what he did to Adam? Went to his wife. Hey, that's off limits. Not to the devil. And then I want you to see something else. The world thinks that we're irrational for not accepting their idolatry. Not only are they going to convince some of our friends they're not going to play fair, but in their own minds, they think we're irrational. It blows my mind to look at somebody and them say to me, you're being irrational, when they think that a man and a man can have a child. They tell me I'm irrational. They think a woman and a woman should raise a child. They think I'm irrational. Yeah, they do. They really do. Nebuchadnezzar says, I don't think you understood. You didn't bow down the first time. Let me explain this to you. The odds are, if you don't bow down, I burn you to a crisp. Now, go back and bow down. You don't understand the odds. But what the world doesn't understand is there's something different motivating us from the very core. There's something different motivating me. It's not money. They don't understand that. People will come to a church like this. They'll see us take up offerings and they'll say the church is money hungry. Look at these offering plates and that tell me if I'm money hungry. What, $4 in here? I'm money hungry? I can make a whole lot more if I took this out in the streets of Decatur and put a patch in my eye and sat there and said, help me, we'll work for food. Sit out by McDonald's with a cardboard sign, I'd make more than this. You know what I'm saying? We're not about money. They think we're irrational. See, you don't understand. We'll put the pressure on you. We'll ostracize you. We'll make you the weird people. You don't understand. But they don't understand. There's something else motivating us. I want you to see the beautiful response that Nebuchadnezzar heard. Verse 16. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we are not careful to answer thee in this matter. If it be so, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of thine hand, O king. But if not, be it known unto thee, O king, that we will not serve thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. Of course, then the king got really furious, and that's when he heated it up 7 times, and he threw him in the fire. And of course, you know the story. When he looks in the fire, he said, I thought I threw 3 men in there. There's 4. He said, and the 4th looks like the son of God. You'll notice that phrase, by the way, the fourth looking like the Son of God, is not in some of the new versions. That's only in the King James. It says something else. I'm not sure what it says in there. I can't remember. But it doesn't say the Son of God. I think it might say the Son of the gods or something like that. But this one, it looks like the fourth was the Son of God. Nebuchadnezzar came near to the mouth, verse 26, of the burning fiery furnace and spake, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, ye servants of the Most High God, come forth and come hither. Then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came forth in the midst of the fire. And the princes, governors, captains, and the king's counselors, being gathered together, saw these men, upon whose bodies the fire had no power, nor was an hair of their head singed, neither were their coats changed, nor the smell of fire had passed on them. I want you to see something here. First of all, the response. Their response to everything that was given them was, they said, respectfully, we do not need to be careful. They were respectful, but we don't need to be careful. I'm just going to tell you, I'm not even the least bit careful about who knows what my position is on gay marriage. Don't have to worry one bit. What are the consequences? Oh, I'm quite aware of what the consequences could be. I'm very aware that what they're going to be eventually at some point. Check history. You're going to find out the world does not play games. Okay? They're not playing games. The devil does not play fair. Okay? So we're going to shout it as long as we can and be strong in our position, respectfully strong, but there's no need to be careful. When you know what the Word of God says, there's no need to be careful. Did you hear what Jimmy Carter said the other day? How many of you heard that? Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter said, I believe Jesus would accept gay marriage. He said then, I don't have a chapter and verse for that. No, really? Yeah, that's true, probably. No, you know what Jesus said? He said, from the beginning it was not so. God made them male and female. For this cause shall the man leave father and mother and cleave unto his wife, and they two shall be one flesh. That's what Jesus said. Jesus said it very clearly. Didn't make him, her, and however you want to describe yourself. You know what they say? They have a list. They say there's 57 different genders. Seriously? I believe there's 57 different kinds of people. Plus, there's as many different kinds of people as there are people. Everybody's different. Every one of us has a unique signature to our soul. We're different. Every one of us. There's not 57 different genders. There's male and female, and that's it. That's it. That's the way God made us. We don't have to be careful about that. And people that say that, I will try my best to be respectful to them and call them, oh, king, if they're a king, or oh, emperor, if they're the emperor, or want to be the emperor, or oh, president, or whatever you want to say. But, oh, president, you were wrong. You're crazy. Out of your mind. It is not possible to do what you're claiming is possible to do. Then what did they do? They threw themselves on the mercy of God. Said, you know what? This is really up to God. God can deliver us out of your hand, O king. He'll deliver us. We'll commit ourselves to Him. 1 Peter chapter 2, he says, Jesus, revile not. He committed himself to Him who's above, Jesus, to God. He committed his soul to God. He said to us, he said, if your boss is froward, he said, just take it. If you do well and suffer for it, it's okay. It's acceptable with God. You're a Christian and you do your best and you're treated wrong, it's okay. Just commit that all to God. Because you know what? He's writing it all down.